There has been, of course, a great deal of confusion, controversy, anger, and other sorts of emotional and intellectual reactions to the recent breaches of White House security under the protection, so to speak, of the United States Secret Service. Very few people on the inside are talking about this that we have heard. We're very fortunate to have with us this first hour tonight whistleblower John Carman, U.S. Border Patrol agent who served for years in that capacity, and before that, United States Secret Service agent who served in the White House protecting President Jimmy Carter and many others. John is a remarkable man. In addition to being a whistleblower, he is a friend of mine for many years, and he is here tonight to tell us the inside story of just how bad the situation is there, or, as some suggest, was this a warning to Obama? We had a lot of conflicting reports, and of course the conspiracy theorists are having a field day with this, but John Carman knows reality, and he's here to share it with all of us. Hello, my friend. Welcome back, and thanks for being here.
Hey, Jeff. Good to be back. It's nice to talk to you again.
Yeah. Okay. Just for fun, could something like this have been orchestrated to scare Obama? Now, I know that would require the Secret Service to have some kind of stand-down order or to be deployed in a weak and vulnerable fashion, or inside information on location and accessibility given to somebody on the outside. Is that a possibility, or are these people just blowing smoke who are talking about that kind of thing?
Most of the time, most of those people are just blowing smoke because they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't have the training. They've never been inside the Secret Service, so they can't talk from any perspective whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But being former Secret Service, I still have to take consideration of any possible theory or angle that you could have a treasonous type situation or a person that's been compromised, maybe.
So it's not off the table.
For a guy to jump the fence.
Yeah.
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's not off the table then. It is a possibility, a remote possibility nonetheless, but still it's possible that something was done to facilitate these two breaches. I mean, what was it? I don't know how many years ago it was, 2007 or 6, a number of shots were fired into the back of the residential area of the White House. It's not good. So we can't take that completely off the table then. Interesting. Okay.
No, you can't take the chance, because even if a guy jumps the fence like this one military guy did and got as far as he did without other people reacting, you could actually see the film where these other uniform officers were just standing there talking like nothing happened because they didn't hear the alarm. They had their radios turned down or something. And for him to actually get up the steps, there's a set of steps before he can get up to the double doors to get inside the actual mansion.
Yeah.
Why he wasn't stopped or shot right there, I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
If you
That's
were
the
on,
worst violation ever.
Yeah, oh yeah, I would say. If you were on duty and you had been there, you have shoot-to-kill orders if somebody breaches the White House security that severely, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked that many times, and I was actually there when the officer before me, I was going to relieve the other officer on a midnight shift, and somebody jumped the fence while we're in the briefing. And He ended up shooting the guy because he jumped. This guy was a black man that was a taxi driver. His name was Plummer. He jumped the side fence and had a pipe in his hand, and it's dark, and they usually hit the lights pretty good because not all the lights are hit. And by the time he's yelling at the guy to stop and he kept coming, he had to shoot. They only shot him one time in the chest.
Uh-huh.
He went down, and the ballistics were kind of interesting. And that was it. And I've stopped people that jumped the southern fence at the southern part of the residence, and in a business suit, a tall black man who just happened to have a briefcase, and he's in a business suit, and he's setting off IRs left and right because he's actually getting over the fence and setting off IRs as he walks.
What are IRs, John?
Those are infrared type detectors.
Surveillance detectors, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're a special beam of infrared light. Once you break it, it sets off an alarm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a big secret. But, I've stopped them before they got right up to the entrance, cuffed them up the whole 9 yards. I mean, I've arrested several people like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
all right,
you have to make the decision.
Let's go back to this current example, the ex-military guy who obviously is well-trained in some respects of doing damage, jumps the fence. How great of a distance did he have to traverse before he got to the White House? And it's my understanding that once he got inside, he bowled over a woman Secret Service agent, knocked her over, ran right past her. She apparently pursued him and tackled him on the floor. That's what I read. I don't know how accurate that is. You never know in these stories. What is your understanding of exactly what happened?
Some of these officers are not built for that type of work, but this guy had to run at an uphill angle for about 50 yards. Okay, that's the safest distance I could explain it. He still has to go around a certain section of the abutments of the building to go up the steps through a driveway to get up the double doors. And your weakest link is right there. If that was a smaller person or a female, he just tossed her aside and went through the doors. And there was actually, until later, that they found out there was supposedly an off-duty agent coming off the detail, and he tackled this guy. So now we're getting conflicting reports. Who tackled who and all.
Mm-hmm.
Tackle my butt. How come she didn't shoot the guy, or why didn't she have her gun out? You know, that's what bothers me. If she didn't have her gun out or was least ready, then she was unprepared, she wasn't paying attention, and that's pretty serious. That's a violation, by the way.
Oh, for sure. All right, so let's face it. Jumping a fence and sprinting 50 yards, you got to be in reasonable shape to do that. And then there's a lot of emotion. He's obviously hyped up. Then you get up and he busted through the double doors. Is that your understanding?
Well, whoever was there, he pushed them aside is the term. See, they're very restrictive about what actually happened because they don't want you to know that they screwed up really bad.
Yeah.
They had two other officers off to the left, and they had the female officer who's the one that's at this post. There's a special designated number for that. And that's it. It stops right there. If somebody comes running up at you, they don't belong, you yell at them to stop. The gun is supposed to be out already by that time. You shouldn't have to go, wait a minute, I got to pull my gun now and think about it or something. You don't know what that person's carrying. You don't know what they're doing for running like that. It's obvious what they are. They're a danger. You don't know if they're going to be a biological weapon of some sort. You don't know if they've got an implant. And I brought this up before, if you remember the Manchurian Candidate idea.
Sure.
You don't know how small or what this guy's got on them. You know, 75%, if you want to hear a statistic, of most of the jumpers are mental cases.
Interesting.
That's all they are. Yeah, that's all they are. Yeah, I want to see the president. Okay, well, what do you want to see him about? Do you have any weapons on you? You know, while I'm cuffing him up or something. And then you escort him up to the front northwest gate.
Mm-hmm.
Then the duty agent has to come out, and then he has to go and interview the guy before he decides whether he's going to put him at St. Elizabeth's Hospital for evaluation for up to, 30, 60, or 90 days. Like Mr. John Hinckley, remember him?
Yeah.
I interviewed him.
Did you?
I was on the other division, Foreign Missions Division, which handles embassies and patrolling the D.C. area and the outside of the White House.
Uh-huh.
But he was on the outside hanging around, and it's midnight shift, so it's like, well, hey, what are you doing up late? You just engaging in conversation. And then all of a sudden, this guy's talking about that movie, Taxi Driver. You remember that?
Sure do.
Came out in '74. And this guy was talking about Jodie Foster and some other weird stuff I won't repeat on the airwaves, but you got to wonder, there's something going on with this guy. So that was like right in 1976 before it transferred over to the White House division.
Most
weird.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, just go back. There's a story here in the Washington Post, and there's a video accompanying it, but I'll just read a little bit here. This is September 22nd. There was a lot of very sketchy and, frankly, conflicting information in the beginning. Oh, he didn't get inside. He posed no real threat to the president. BS, he didn't. He got inside. And you don't know who's walking around. Apparently the president wasn't there. I don't believe his wife was there. Wasn't one of their children there? I think one of them was. But
they supposedly had just left, supposedly.
Supposedly. Well, there you go. I think Grandma was there with one of the kids. I read that. Yeah, but the problem is we read too many different versions of this screenplay, and that gets... We don't really have 100% accuracy yet, in my opinion. Here's the story. Federal prosecutors alleged Monday in federal court that a man who jumped a fence and ran into the White House's unlocked front door Friday night posed a threat to President Obama and was keeping 800 rounds of ammunition, 2 hatchets, and a machete in his car, parked several blocks away. Omar Jose Gonzalez, 42, of Copperas Cove, Texas, appeared before a U.S. magistrate on one charge of unlawfully entering a restricted building or grounds while carrying a deadly or dangerous weapon. So, how does that tie up to what we have today as far as an understanding?
Well, if he's got a vehicle full of ammunition, like another guy was at the Capitol building, if he doesn't have access to it, it doesn't mean anything. But it looks like what they're trying to do is sugarcoat it a certain way, so it looks like, well, this guy was a potential threat because why was he carrying all that ammunition?
Yeah.
Well, unless they find the AK-47 or whatever gun it was to, it still doesn't mean anything except for the fact that he had a pocket knife on him.
3.5 inch serrated blade pocket knife. Exactly.
Well, a highly trained person can do a lot of damage with a serious knife, but
yeah.
It's like that Miriam Carey case, the black intern that got shot by the Capitol Police. They didn't get their facts straight on that. And I'm looking at a diagram right now. You mentioned the Washington Post article. They show an actual path, alleged path, where the guy jumped the fence and he jumped around on the east side around the pool, the fountain there.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's wrong. He actually went around the opposite side because there were two Secret Service officers standing in that side. So he went around the other direction. The double doors are left unlocked most of the time, except usually at nighttime, unless somebody needs to get through there. So most of those are locked. If that person needs to step inside for some reason, they can go inside. Then they have to lock it from the inside. They haven't updated some of that stuff so it's automatic. So in other words, if certain alarms go off, you got electronic stuff going off left and right and locking certain areas. Hollywood's better than that, unfortunately. It took them years to go from revolvers to the late 70s, early 80s before they finally decided, well, we need to go to, semi-automatics and change the Uzis to MP5s because they're much lighter and they still shoot hot loads of 9mm and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But, they're still catching up with technology.